You said that you found, your métier, as it were, just kind of circumstantially after traveling and things like that. And a lot of times people during my life, they come up to me and they're like, I feel stuck. What should I do? And I always say, just travel, travel, get out of yourself, go to another country. And how important is that? Can you comment on that? What do you think about that?
Oh, I think it is extremely, extremely enriching. It's a type thing, right? So for some people, it's not attractive. Like, they're not interested in traveling, where I think actually that's a comfort zone thing, because if you travel, you step out of your comfort zone, right? So they say the earlier you start, the easier it is, but also the harder it is. But it does so much to broaden your horizon, because first of all, you put yourself in a situation that's way outside your comfort zone. You have to you're faced with things that you don't know how to deal with. Maybe language barriers, culture clash, different food, different weather, different lifestyle, different people, and your friends are somewhere else, your family's somewhere else. It's
you flexing muscles you didn't know you had.
Yeah, because you have to flex.
Because you have
to survive, to get by.
Exactly. And then that does a lot to you. Like, I noticed it over the years, and I'm still noticing it, that it gives you some kind of it gives you a kind of confidence with time, that you're like, yeah, I can, actually I did that, I survived that, I grew doing that. So it gives you some kind of inner peace, and it makes you feel more settled in that sense. And also, just people live differently throughout the world. We have a lot of things in common. A lot of things are also different. We have different ways we approach Bitcoin. For example, a German will approach it very differently from somebody in Turkey, from somebody in El Salvador, Malaysia, or the Philippines. And in that sense, we approach many things very differently. At the same time, there are a lot of commonalities. So
there's a lot of self-discovery that goes on, because the affectations one adopts and the masks one uses to get by in their home country and culture don't work in other places. So you have to take off your mask. You have to let go of your affectations. And what do you find? You find that you're closer to who you really are. And then that's a much more valuable version of who you are. You can then rely on as a resource to power, your life going forward. And that's the thing about people. Most people get very attached to their persona.
Oh, yeah.
And they're not really their genuine self. And it's tiresome, especially to be around. One of the flip sides of, the negatives of traveling so much is that it's hard to be around artificial people. It's just like so tiresome. They're just like, I know you're faking it. You have nothing genuine to say, because you haven't left this 5-block area in 30 years.
And to that point, you meet when you travel, you have so many interesting conversations with somebody. You're just sitting there, like, talking to somebody, having this interesting conversation. The place I'm staying in, El Tunco, has a shared kitchen. And talk about getting out of your comfort zone. I'm a guy who lives alone. I kind of like things a certain way. I eat, I have this very specific foods I eat, but I was like, no, man, I'm down with this. And it's really cool. It's forcing me. I'm talking to people already from different parts of the world, Canadian, this, that, like asking people, El Salvadorians. There's an El Salvadorian who grew up in the States who's now back down. And I'm sitting there like, oh man, because food is such a communal thing. Everybody eats everywhere, and you have to talk. And again, because it's a communal kitchen and it's all a bunch of travelers. It's all a bunch of people who are used to just striking up complete conversations with strangers and getting to know them. And it's like, oh, wow, cool. And where are you from? And where have you traveled? And what are you doing here? And I'm like, oh, I'm doing a Bitcoin podcast. And they're just like, that's wild. Like, what are you talking about? I'm like, and I say, some of my friends back in the States, I said, I'm going to El Salvador to do a Bitcoin podcast. They're like, all right, well, Graham's nuts. Graham's out of his mind. That's cool. Yeah. That was bananas. That's great. And you do have to, like, and again, I've been studying Spanish about 6 months. I live in California where there's a lot of Latinos, but I'm forced here a lot. The majority of this crew here, which is fantastic, they don't speak a lot of English. So I'm having to figure this out with them. And I love that challenge I was communicating with them today. I was like, ah, shit, I got to use Google Translate. I don't like using Google Translate, but I had to like go into the details, and they're like, oh, okay. And we're figuring out how to set the cameras up. And I'm like, I'm producing and directing a show to people that live in a language I'm not very good at. You know, like, this is awesome. I don't know, man. It's just,
Yeah.
it is good to get out of your comfort zone.
It gives you an openness too, and that's one of the biggest things I've noticed in myself as well, because there's so much we don't know. There's so much we will never know. And even if you travel, there's places you will never go. There's places you will never see, people you will never meet, but you can learn and you can take in as much as you can, as you want. And you don't just broaden your own horizon, but you become more open to ideas, which I think the worst thing that can happen to you is if you close yourself off to new ideas, different thoughts, which is what we're seeing, for example, in the prevailing official European opinion of El Salvador, for example. It's very easy to go and say, oh, that country, like, I don't know, looks pretty authoritarian to me. So yeah, I know. So, but then when you come here, how about you talk to the people here, you know?